The broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Hello, and a very warm welcome to every single person who has come in here for this latest edition of the Predictive AI World Forum. Our apologies for a minor delay in the start time. We are trying to deal with a few technical issues since we are all bound to conference lines now. But it's a pleasure having you. And my name is Malay Upadhyay. I'll be your host today as we have an expert set of panelists guide us through how to survive today and thrive post-corona, specifically by thinking about building momentum. What does that mean? In order to take us through this discussion and to facilitate the conversation, I would like to invite, without further ado, Ton Dobby, who is the author of The Remarkable Effect and hails from Value Inspiration, to come and give a quick introduction, bring in the panelists, and start off the discussion right away. Ton?
Thank you, Malay. It's a pleasure. And yeah, I mean, good news at the end is also I think we have solved the technical issues. So Mark Organ is available and can actually speak because I've unmuted him. So everybody, welcome. Yes, like Malay said, it's this session is about surviving today and thriving post-corona. And we have a fantastic panel here for you. To start with, the first one, Mark Organ. He's the founder and chairman of a company called Influitive, which is an ambassador community platform. Second on the list is Dr. Cindy Gordon, who is the CEO the CEO and founder of a company called Sales Choice. Third in the list is Sachin Dev Dugal, who is the CEO and co-founder of a company called Builder from the UK. And last but not least, Roland Hallebeek, who is like me, Dutch, as you can hear from my accent. CEO and co-founder of a company called Scotty. And Scotty is a platform that helps organizations to scale their voice, all incoming voice communication. Builder, by the way, is a company that allows organizations and people from around the world to effectively start and create and bring their ideas to life through software. Sales Choice is a company that automates and helps organizations sell more, get rid of the uncertainties around revenue forecasting, and allow salespeople to become way more effective and productive with regards to what they have on their target, of course. So the topic for today, before we start to go into the questions and into the panel discussion, we see, of course, that the last couple of weeks we've all been suffering worldwide from the virus, from the coronavirus, and what you've seen, of course, is an enormous avalanche of messaging that everybody started to provide and create in order to help, in order to get some attention. And what we've seen at the end is that with all that massive news, you could, of course, not open a website, not open the television and listen to a television program or anything on the radio without hearing the word. So we sort of created a filter around us, built a massive wall around us, which has made us numb for all the news around this. And that, of course, provides a challenge with regards to how do you drive business. First of all, of course, because businesses are challenged. They are going. They have to close down. They have issues with customers, and that's why we wanted to do this webinar. Surviving today. That's the first part of the session today. But most importantly, of course, how do you thrive tomorrow? So going into the first question, and that's the question I actually want to raise to the audience, just to get you going and thinking a little bit. If you would use one word and look at your own company, if you look at that one word, how do you feel about the next 6 months and the outlook for your business? So if you can just put it into the chat, we'll come back to that later and start to mix that into the conversation. So while you're thinking about that one word about how you are feeling about the business for the next 6 months, Cindy, first question to you. If you look at the last 9 weeks and you think about the word momentum, like the panel discussion is about that word today, what comes up? And what have you done in your business and for your customers to keep that momentum or even grow that momentum?
Thanks, Ton, and to my colleagues on the line, and also to our welcome guests. Just glancing through the profiles, and it's really nice that we've got an international audience. And I think that's one really important point when it comes to momentum, that this is really a global phenomenon. So, Ton, when you shared the question, I actually stepped back and I thought I should actually make sure that we pause and define the word momentum. It actually has richer meaning. It really actually originates from physics and Newtonian mechanics. And I thought I'd just share this because I think it's helpful. Because when we usually think about momentum, we think about energy, we think about velocity, but it actually is more than that. It's actually about a very, very tight vector dynamic that gives you the magnitude and the velocity to actually achieve an outcome. And, so I think that, energy is positive, but you really have to have that sniper precision on a desired outcome and a focus. And obviously through that energy, it radiates more. So I thought that might be helpful.
Yeah, sure,
in terms of how, yeah, I know. In terms for how we're approaching COVID-19, obviously we're all very focused on our existing clients and more from the nurturing perspective. I think that, we've all learned that the importance of empathy and increased empathy in times like this, and that conversation actually drives a very different momentum. We've also been rethinking our platform in some new ways in light of COVID, in the sense of, just more coaching insights that are dynamically driven through the AI. It's just kind of forcing us to get sharper in new, I'd call it, end user experiences and modalities, and working with some of our larger clients on those messaging, because they need to get feedback out quickly to the field, but they also are recognizing that they just don't have the same amount of coaching time that maybe they used to. You might think they have more coaching time, but if anything, there's far more energy being put out into net new builds and retaining existing clients. I think we've also learned a lot about the need to net out comments. There is a very short attention span right now. And I know when you look at email marketing, we've known for some time, a lot of those approaches are dead. So I think conversations like this are much more endearing, they're much more enriching, and they can create a community dynamic. So those are some of the things that, that we're trying to drive that are net new, but I honestly think we're learning. If you look at the different economic forecasts, obviously there's a lot of industry dependencies. So obviously shifting into new segments is becoming a sharper reality. There's certain industries that are just, they're going to be flat for a long time.
Yeah, that's for sure. It's also something that came out of the webinar from last week. The sniper positioning, sniper segmentation, that is all very important. Well, to hand it over to Roland, CEO of a company called Scotty Technologies. Roland, if you compare your business now with 8 weeks ago, what strategic change did you make to keep and grow momentum?
Thank you, Ton, and hello everyone. Well, interesting. Yeah, of course. Well, first of all, we were kind of expecting what everybody was expecting. We didn't know exactly what to expect. Then it was very clear that if you look back now, where we are now, we're basically on COVID testosterone because everything has been discussed. We've been having these every morning, 30 minutes meetings to basically reiterate every day. Okay, guys. What is new today, and what do we need to do? So rising up to the occasion is basically what we did for ourselves. Yeah. Rethinking purpose was also very important for us. Interesting. Because was it the same as so pre-corona, corona, and post-corona? We found probably very different. And to what we did, and I'm happy we did that. I'm also proud that we did it because we got really awesome feedback, good learnings. We approached 3 of our not clients, but people we've been talking to for a long time, who said, well, we procrastinate basically what we've been trying to sell to them. But we said, okay, good, that we understand that. But can you please, can we have a meeting with you? And can you please explain how you see it? Why is it you're not buying now? There's a lot of reasons internally, of course, but how do you see us? How would you like to, what message would you like to give to us? That was very interesting because there were two very big companies and they gave us very valuable feedback on which we banked on, and we basically followed up on internally. So basically turbocharging our decision making, because these were things we were always thinking, yeah, maybe we should do this. Yes, we should do this. But and that is a good news, I think, over the past 8 weeks looking back, is apparently we can do a lot more, a lot quicker if we really want to and need to.
That's interesting, and it's specifically interesting to me that you say you've been approaching non-clients rather than clients to understand what has changed. So you're definitely going forward with a different approach to the market.
Yeah, the core, of course, stays the same. Technology is there, but the messaging, and clearly, what was very clear is the good question we always get back is, of course, what problem are you solving? Well, that message is different because the problems that our potential clients are facing are different than they were facing 10 weeks ago. So we have to adjust not only our pitch, but also our value proposition, also rethink the value that we are, so rethinking the purpose, and also make sure that the choices we make are always guided by these change principles, basically. So yes, it kind of is changed. One of the things was, sure, so we are great for cost reduction. We said, yeah, but what is more important for us, for example, is the analysis you guys can do, your technology can do, is way more important that it can drive value. So if you can teach me how my clients are behaving and what we can learn from that, then we can adjust in our business. That is a much better discussion than just automating your phone calls, what you're doing, but also what do we learn? What can we learn from those conversations that you've done? And please feedback that to me.
Yeah.
Then I'm even willing to pay you more. That was
different feature that you already had became sort of the lead in the way you go to market. Very interesting.
Yes.
Let me see, Mark. I think you have access now to the microphone. I would really also like to hear the perspective that you have. If you look, for example, at the company where you are the chairman, Influitive. Let me see. I don't think that Mark can speak. That's interesting. I think we are having a problem with that channel, and hope Malay, you can help sort that in the meantime. Then I move to part number 2, which is winning their hearts. So why I'm bringing this up? I think Caroline already picked up on the topic that certain things that you've been going to market with were important 10 weeks ago, and others have now become more important. So how do you win the heart of your customers? Through, for example, surprise, hitting the right nerve. And that's at the end a very important topic, because what I've seen from my own customers and from my own experiences in working with these organizations in the last 10 weeks is that the noise has been so heavy, like I said in the introduction, and the filters have gone up in order to keep us from actually to stay sane on the whole thing. So what makes me curious at the end, and that's a question to Sachin, since we had our podcast, I think it was about a year ago in June or July 2019. I've really been impressed by your ability to surprise the market, to surprise customers with messages that hit the right nerve. So what's your secret here? How do you use this to your advantage?
So look, I think, Ton, there's a couple. First, thank you so much for having me on. So I guess one is, we're a company we're a little odd. So on one hand, we are extremely data centric. You know, we can tell you that this target audience of customer who just filled in this form, you know, said their budget is $6,000, but really their budget is 9,500. And so to a certain extent, our top of the funnel machine, and with our head of growth, who does an outstanding job, is really focused on understanding cause and causality. I think the second is the exact opposite, which is where we make a lot of decisions around product, what we think market wants, through intuition, and then we iterate through data. So I think when the two things come together, whether it's you know, instant prototyping or what we just launched recently with Studio Store, where we've effectively said, you know, why can't you have fully custom software for your e-commerce delivery or what have you? But instead of spending $50,000, why can't you get it for $500 a month? And I think some of this, you know, since we spoke in June, we've had to wait until we'd finished building everything that we needed to build. Yeah. But I think some of this is also, you know, just having our team, I guess, has a very strong pulse on where we think a gap is. And we're happy to take the risk on intuition and then quickly iterate using the data that we get. So I don't think it's a secret sauce. I think it's we have a Jekyll and a Hyde inside every one of us.
That's an interesting one. And you use that data to to provide the right message at the end to your audience, correct?
Yes, and you know, it's everything from we will change landing pages, we will change form fields, we will change colors. We're now actually starting to have the product dial up and dial down, depending on what our system thinks is sort of the tech savviness, or what might be the regional want. So to give you an example, when we launched in the Middle East, it wasn't some, you know, elaborate strategy that we were going in. It came from just watching what was happening and starting to see there was a concentration, then doing a dipstick, and then, you know, I guess realizing that, well, intuitively that makes sense. The data is telling us it makes sense. And then I think the third part of the jigsaw is that, you know, we're very quick to double down, and sort of we appreciate risk, but also at the same time, like fully understand that, you know, there are going to be calls that we're going to have to make where we need to dive in as fast as possible, otherwise we lose the opportunity.
Yeah, interesting approach here. I see that Mark's microphone is up. So, Mark, can you hear me?
I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Perfect. Oh, that's a relief to me.
Oh, that's great.
Exactly. Well, I mean, the next question is for you then. So I believe that the whole concept of hitting the right nerve has always been very important to business, and particularly the business that you have founded, because you were the founder of a company called Eloqua back in early 2000s, later acquired by Oracle. And secondly, you've been the founder of a company called Influitive, which is the currently the company where you are the chairman, an advocacy community platform. So can you shed a light on that? How hitting the right nerve with customers has been sort of the red line throughout your business?
Yeah, no, it's a great question. And, you know, I'm going to take a different approach than what Sachin talked about. You know, for me, you know, success has always been first and foremost about choosing the right customer segment. It's huge. And the customer segment that I like to focus on the most is a group of underserved people that are going to become powerful and numerous in the future. And if you understand them and serve them well, then you can build a really interesting business. And at Eloqua, the group of people that we focused on were, they called themselves demand generators. They didn't call themselves marketers at all. They often came out of engineering. They often were not even from the marketing department originally. And their job was to figure out how to use this new internet thing as a way to drive business. And so those are the people that I wanted to serve. And I serve the B2B folks. Why? Because no one else was that interested in B2B at the time. They were much more interested in consumer marketing. So I wanted to find a group of people that were underserved and that I could have some white space around them. And the problem that they had was they needed a way to continuously develop opportunities until they were sales ready, and then allow salespeople to go and interact with them. Of course, we're all very familiar with this technology today, but back in 1999, this was pretty original stuff.
20 years ago.
And so I think what's really important in terms of hitting a nerve is for the right people, that you provide an original lens that has a ring of truth to it. I think that's what hitting a nerve actually means, is that when you hear a bold idea and you feel like, that's something I believed my whole life, and I can't believe someone's actually talking about it now. And they're talking about it, though, in a different way than I've ever heard before. And so the message at Eloqua was, what you need is a measurable, repeatable process for generating new opportunities for the sales team. And having marketing and sales come together really for the first time in that way. Yeah. And so that original lens, I think, was really important. And Influitive, sort of similar idea. The bold idea at Influitive was, your best marketing and sales that you'll ever do is the marketing and sales that your customers do on your behalf. Your customers are way better salespeople than your employees are. Free them up and allow them to do what it is they want to do. And the key to getting them to do more of that advocate activity that's so important for driving business, especially now in this Corona time, is to give them the best experience. And that was a revolutionary idea, especially for a small group of people, these customer marketers of the future that really believe this, that really believe that their job was to make advocates happy and give them a great experience. And in so doing, that they would get the golden eggs of the referrals and the references and the case studies and videos and reviews and all those great things that we need our customers to invest back into our business. So hitting that nerve, I think, is more important than ever, right? In these times of crisis, I think to come up with a point of view that is different, but has a ring of truth for the right customer segment, not for everybody, not all companies, not all people, but the ones that really are predisposed to your message, I think is powerful. And I got a bonus for you today. And the bonus is I've actually started a new company. You won't see it on LinkedIn yet, but it's a new company. It's called Category Knots. And Category Knots is a coaching and content service for people who want to discover, develop, and dominate their software categories. And so my unique lens on it is, hey, we all know a category creating company, if you do it right, is a great way to build a huge return, right? To make a lot of money. The Eloqua category today, marketing automation is valuable. I believe customer marketing category is going to be powerful and large one day. But my unique lens on it is it doesn't have to be risky. It could actually be one of the least risky ways to build wealth for yourself, is to build a category creating company. And the way to do that is to have a deep understanding of an underserved segment, and to do cultural anthropology on them and just serve them well. And you can feel this line of thinking throughout all the companies that I've founded. But I believe that Category Knots is itself a category creator, of category creating companies. It's a bit, but I believe that this is it can really be an interesting idea. Not every entrepreneur out there wants to build a new category. There's a lot of entrepreneurs out there that are content to just take an existing mousetrap and make it a little bit better. But for those people who feel this need to create not just a company, but to create a whole ecosystem of companies, then I might have a voice that they want to listen to.
Well, it all comes down to that single point, like addressing the right people with the right message that hits the right nerve. And in a market that's always been busy already and overloaded with messages, generic messages in my case, so often we think we have a marketing message, but at the end, if you pull it apart, it doesn't say anything. And if you remove the logo, it also doesn't stand, or it doesn't speak to who it's really from. And I think that's what we can all learn from. And possibly and hopefully, what has recently happened with the coronavirus crisis that is being created, it helps us to become much better at that, and then we'll have a lot more fun. So let me see. Talking about that exact point, let me pull that question back to Cindy in this case. How has COVID-19 changed your thinking about winning the heart of your customers, kind of hitting the right nerve, and how does it set you up to come out better?
Thanks, Ton, and Mark, I'm really glad that you're here and excited about category knots. Look forward to learning more. I think there's a few things that we've been really striving to do. I think first is phoned all of the clients that we have, the CEOs, and didn't talk about the product, our relationship, just checking in and how they're doing and sharing ideas that might be inspiring. I'm always very alert to who their customers are, and we really make an effort when we find, I'd call it moments of insight, that we share our knowledge. We're well known for that. So I think at the end of the day is how do you win your heart right now is really to listen. I mean, if you are hustling too hard and pushing, this isn't the time. People are all very sensitive to their employees. You know, they're very sensitive to everybody's health. This is a learning point for a lot of us who've been techies like myself and others on the phone. You know, we do need to step back and recognize for a lot of people, this is very new as an experience to be so online. You know, so those are a few of the things that, you know, I think it's all about, for us, it's been about listening and being more, not saying we're not thoughtful, I think we're a very thoughtful, nurturing culture, but if anything, we've had to grow Dumbo ears, like big, giant, friendly ears, and in many ways become little Stuart Littles as well.
And Roland, just a quick one to you as well. What have you learned, and how does it set up? How does it set you up to come out better out of this crisis?
Well, like I referred, is we basically focused back on our purpose and the value that we create. We were very strict with ourselves. We made adjustments there, changes there. Keep testing them and find that there is good feedback from in the discussions we have. So and the other thing is what we really have been that is the corona testosterone that we how we define it is we were thinking about building an ecosystem of parties we're working with that are also interested in our selling our technology. Something we were rethinking. We've done it now, and it works. And I mean, over the past we've been testing this now for 6 weeks, and it looks promising. So yeah, it is more like I said, decisions. Rethink decisions that were on the radar, but were kind of lagging. We decided to use the testosterone in the corona thinking and make some decisions and just do it.
Yeah. Question again is how can you keep that energy that you suddenly had because it needed to be there? How can you keep that going going forward without having a crisis like this?
Absolutely.
Because I think we can all do without a crisis. So I mean, I want to switch to the next topic, and that's a topic that Mark has already introduced, which is the power of advocates. So my belief is that having a relationship with customers that is based on trust and value is probably more important than ever. I think Cindy, you already highlighted on that. Listen, be there for your customers, have a helpful conversation with them, and I mean, just ensure that you build a relationship, and that will then come back to you in different ways, possibly in ways that you couldn't even imagine. So, Mark, back to the question to you. You see, you're unlocked, you're unmuted. Given the fact that you've launched an entire business around empowering customers to become your best salespeople, as you already highlighted in your earlier comments, how important is it to have advocates today? And what would you advise the audience to do differently?
Sure. Yeah. I think it's more important than ever. I mean, if you think about it, I mean, the importance of advocates is that with your customer advocates, you have essentially an unpaid group of people who really care about your company and your success. And they are more effective than anybody at your own company. I mean, they're more effective at selling than your salespeople are. I mean, who would you rather buy from? And someone that's one of your peers or a salesperson? They're better at marketing than your marketing people because they understand themselves. They understand their own needs. They understand what products that they're looking for as well. So if you're able to unleash this incredibly powerful group of people that you don't pay any base salary or any bonus to, of course you're going to do really great, right? If every if every customer that you win is more likely to invest back into your company, and they do so by helping you win new customers, well then, the lifetime value of your customers is going way up. Your cost to acquire new customers, your cost to expand new customers goes down. I mean, this is the key to an efficient business, and that's what we all need right now, right? We all want to grow efficiently. We can't afford to spend as much money on expensive salespeople, expensive and dubious marketing campaigns, products that don't hit the mark. So I think it's absolutely critical now, if there's nothing else that you take advantage of from this session today, is we need to find a better way to unleash the power of our customers to do more than just pay us some MRR every month, but we need them to invest back into our companies. And there's actually a pretty easy way to do this, which is just think about the experience that they are looking for. And what's interesting, and one of my big insights when I created Influitive, was that people are looking for a different experience as a customer advocate than they are as a customer. So as a customer, they're looking for a product that works. They're looking, when they call in for service, that they get the service that they need, or they want proactive customer success. As a customer advocate, they're interested in things that are more in a psychological realm. They want to feel appreciated. They want to feel valued, that they're really contributing to something. They want to feel like they're part of a movement that's bigger than themselves. I mean, that's why that hitting a nerve is so important, right? They want to feel like they're part of a big movement. That's what customer advocates are looking for. So there are lots of things that you can do in order to make people to give people these sorts of feelings that they're looking for. You don't need software like Influitive in order to do it, although it helps. But even in this time, even having a Slack group, or a WhatsApp group of your best customers, that where you have an ongoing chat and figure out how you can make their lives better, and you can request for new referrals or requests for ideas for how to improve products. I mean, really any non-financial investment, I think, to me, counts as advocacy. I mean, that's a literally free way in order to engage with your best customers, make them feel special and valued, and generate those kinds of returns. And at some point, if you go down this path, you may want to invest in a community that does engage and reward people, and Influitive has one of those, and there's others that range from free all the way to a Cadillac version of that sort of software. But if you want to really make this a core piece of your strategic approach to market, there are software platforms that do that. But again, I'll emphasize that you can start on the path to customer advocacy literally for free with chat groups, or inexpensively when this lockdown ends. Having a dinner once a quarter with your best customers is honestly one of the best investments I think you can make as a senior executive listening to this call. $1,000 to get 8 to 10 people to a nice dinner, and to have a conversation with them about where the company is going, and to ask them for some referrals and reviews and other things in return. Very inexpensive, super high ROI, and everyone once we're able to go to restaurants again.
That's for sure, yeah. Because having a dinner over Zoom is likely going to be less effective. But I mean, I think these are excellent remarks. I mean, and I go back to my time, for example, when I worked at Unit 4, and I saw how often I was always sort of almost misusing our customers, because it was always the same customers that we kept using and using and using as a reference. And that's the wrong approach. It's about giving them what they want rather than asking and asking and asking. That's where it will start to become a snowball, I would say. So thanks for that. So Sachin, next question to you. Because one of the things that Mark already highlighted is that, of course, it all starts with having a fantastic product. I mean, that's how the foundation is laid. And then, of course, you need to do things like answer their questions. But the way you do that is also, I would say, it's almost like a contrarian approach. So on your website, thing that inspired me a year ago, and I see that it recently came back. One of the statements is software is easy as ordering, or build software as easy as it's as easy as ordering a pizza. So how important is that contrarian approach in your overall strategy, beyond the marketing part, to turn customers into advocates?
So I think that's a really important point, right? And whether it's what we're doing with Studio Store, which we've sort of been baking probably for just under a year, and then we launched it sort of as the pandemic came out, and as opposed to just going out to the market and pricing it how we would normally do, we said, look, this is a really strong opportunity for us as a brand to rise above the noise globally in the markets that we operate in. And what we did is to say whoever was building e-commerce, delivery, and there's a few more that are coming down the pipeline, we would allow them to get it for free for 3 months. Mm-hmm. And so, that goes right into the heart of advocacy, because I think one thing is, to me, advocacy when you get a customer to go somewhere and do something or tell a friend or do something else. But I think there's a different sense of advocacy that comes from a sort of a sincere benefit that they received. And for us as a company, whether it's the products we build, what we message, how we approach it, being contrarian or being slightly rebellious is a core part of not only our DNA, but even our brand DNA.
Yeah, exactly.
And so whether it is, why should you have to pay $50,000 when you can get it for $500 a month? Why should you have to use, these SaaS services where you can just put your logo, but the minute you have to do anything else, you have to spend $10,000 or $30,000 to build an e-commerce site? Why is it that you need to have a conversation for 2 weeks to be able to spec out your idea before you're actually able to, get a price? And why does it always feel like the price is this black box? And when you make like the smallest change, it feels like it had an infinite impact to price or timeline. And so a lot of how we've built our business has been, forget how it's done, how should it be done? Forget what the top level view looks like. How do we build up from the bottom up? And how do we message to people as humans rather than people whose wallets we're trying to take away?
Very important point, that last point. Keep it all human. And I think it all comes back again to the point that Mark also made earlier on. It's like addressing the right customer segment, maybe an underserved segment of the market, and I think you're addressing one here as well. But typically speaking their language, and don't try to be everything to everybody. Because of course you could go after the whole market, but then it becomes generic and then it loses its power. Now you have something extremely powerful to offer to a segment that is ready for it. So I like that. And I wonder, Cindy, back to you. If you look at your customers, your customer base, how has advocacy over this past period been of value to take your business through this phase? What lessons have you learned here?
Well, obviously, in terms of advocacy, it's sort of like I mentioned before, it's really touching base, when we've had these discussions, although it hasn't been a hard focus on us. It's always that our clients are there for us in terms of references. It's really interesting being in the AI space in the sense of some of the confidentiality. I find that, they're there when we need them, but not always, to go out on public record. There's, especially with some of the larger accounts, they're cautious a little bit. But they are there for sure in terms of spirit and when you do need them. I think the other thing is in terms of the advocacy side is, I think you can learn, I think to Mark's point, there's no question, there's nothing better than a client having a lunch, with a potential prospect that you are targeting, and for them to say a few words. And when it just comes off as, just natural community discourse, that makes a huge difference. The other thing is, and I learned this at Xerox when I was an executive, ask. Don't be afraid of asking your customers to be an advocate. And that can really drive pathway to closure. And they're often more delighted that you are asking. So you have to find the time, but you also need to be alert to when the right time is to make those asks.
Yeah.
Because if in fact you're still going through, your justification and your pilot stage, you have to be patient. Advocacy, I think, is a vision for the long term, not the short term. And I think that's one of the aspects that it's always harder when you're in the emergent side, because time is so critical. But there is a time, just like in Bugs Bunny, to pounce, and there's either a good or bad time. It either can work for you or not. So I think advocacy, is definitely a strategic imperative, and you can build that into your whole value system. And how you approach even your own employee base as well is kind of nurture that broader perspective. I think Mark, this is one of his deep expertise areas, and he's definitely a category killer.
Exactly. And I agree with you. This is about being there for the long term. It's just playing the infinite game rather than the finite game. If the only thing is like short-term gains and the next quarter, then customers will see, and that's where likely you'll have a much bigger problem to get them to be an advocate for you. So moving to the last part of this panel discussion, thriving post-COVID. And let me point the question back at Roland in this case, and I'll ask Mark as well. What has been your biggest aha moment during this crisis, overall?
Like I mentioned, the willingness of prospects, not clients, to have a discussion on our company, what we offer, and how they perceive us, and share with us where they are going also, and what changed for them. So we looked for a dialogue, and we got a dialogue. That was for us a really big aha moment. Because I didn't count on getting the time with them to discuss it, but they did.
Yeah, and I mean, at the end, it's like often we are afraid of these things slipping away, and just asking often gives us so much more.
Yeah.
And it's such a simple thing.
Yeah, because
and you get a reaction, and
the discussion was actually. Sorry, Ton. Yeah, sorry. The discussion was, I called them because they would say, yeah, well, we can't do it now. Maybe summer, after summer, all the things I didn't want to hear. But then I asked him, okay, so why? I mean, why? And then he said, well, good point. Not many people ask me that, he said, but let's discuss. That was really good. And also after that, the things he shared and they shared, the 3 companies in total. I think it's a good basis for a better relationship potentially in the future.
Very well. So keep that going forward, I would say. And Mark, what has been your biggest aha moment during this crisis?
Yeah, I mean, for me, it's the remarkable resilience of our companies and our economy. I thought that things would be in much worse shape. And the big aha moment is just actually how mature our internet-oriented infrastructure actually is. Right? It's even what we're doing right now. And while we did have some technical difficulties on this webinar, it is really remarkable how well many companies are doing. That's been remarkable for me. Like I have 7 global coaching clients, and they're all doing very well. And they're beating their numbers. Almost surprisingly, they all, a number of them cut staff and in preparation for a very difficult time. And as a result of the sales being ahead of expectations and having lower costs, they're all, many of them are profitable today. And I think that's been surprising to a lot of people, but also really, really exciting for those people that are in the digital/internet world. That said, there are a lot of people and companies that are hurting, the ones in the real world. And so I think I'm a little scared about a growing divergence between, you know, haves and have-nots, and between the digital virtual people and the ones that are in the physical world. And, you know, a question for me is when does the weakness in the you know, real economy, you know, and everything from, you know, hotels to the service sector to oil and gas, you know, when does that actually start to weigh on, you know, those of us in the technology industry, which my guess is a lot of people listening to this podcast are in the tech business and are probably doing okay. We'll see. But for now, I'm impressed with the resilience that I'm seeing out there.
Okay, Cindy, what has been your aha moment here?
Well, I think every week I feel that there's an aha moment. So I think initially, you know, I didn't really anticipate how severe this was going to be and how fast it was going to move across the global economy. We had just returned actually from Mexico, and you know, we were just kind of relaxing, and next thing we knew, we were all social distancing. So it moved very quickly. So I think, you know, the aha moment right now has been more around, I think, observing how everybody's handling the global pandemic crisis. And, you know, I think, Mark, you're right. There are many, many industries that are, you know, going to be so severely impacted. This morning, I was actually out walking very early because I'm very much practicing the importance of health and being very mindful of that to our team. And we were talking about a manufacturing company here in Canada, you know, where they're still there, but the volumes are decreasing. You know, there's support from the government. They can last so long. So I think there's a number of industries that are going to be severely crushed, and they might just not make it. And then we're talking about, you know, our makeup as a country and our GDP, where I think over 90% of our GDP is dependent on small businesses. And so many of them are obviously in the, you know, the restaurant and small retail, you know, mom and pop shops. So, you know, I think the faster everybody can move into e-commerce enablement, we're seeing that with Shopify. So I think my aha really is just watching the global economics. It's not local. And, you know, even when we have these conversations around, and Mark, your point, I really hit home in the sense of really, really focusing on the underserved segments. And, you know, so I think the aha is, it always goes back to focus. What can you do differently in light of what you know? The past is the past, and you need to move forward and see what emerges, test, and then re-vector quickly and be agile. You know, I think there was agility certainly here before, but, you know, I'm just kind of constantly thinking on a daily basis about what else we could do. So that's a very different beat, and I think maybe that's a healthy beat as well. You know, to sort of, you know, have that shock into your nervous system. And I think that deep reflection is also, you know, because I've been reading so much on mindfulness and, you know, how, you know, in terms of these kinds of dynamics, what really will win the day. And, you know, it kind of goes back to the hearts and the minds and the softer, more and more emotional intelligence scene. If you're trying to just drive transaction after transaction, you know, I think there will be, you know, there will be some issues. So I think it's heightening a lot of those points.
Very good points. And you talked already about like being mindful. Question to you, Sachin. Based on what you've seen the last 10 weeks, what have you learned about mindset? Entrepreneurial mindset, customer mindset?
So that's interesting. You know, so I many years ago did the Vipassana. So I did the 10 days of silence, and I have found myself actually go back and start doing it in the mornings again. I think you know, for those of us that sort of saw this a little bit earlier, now it feels like you're in the norming process, or the, I guess, the storming, norming, calming process, and we're entering the calming period, at least in our own minds. I think the variability that we see in the day is really quite wide. You go from moments of
Are you still there? I think we've lost Sachin. Sachin, can you hear me? Something is going wrong. Roland, can you hear me?
hope.
I can. I can.
Oh, Sachin is coming back right now.
When I look at the top of our funnel, it's incredible to see the amount of interest and to see that businesses. And I had a conversation with a Mumbai grocer about 3 weeks ago on one of our channels, and he said, I'm trying to figure out how to deliver food through the neighborhoods that I have 4 stores in. Or a mother in the Middle East who felt compelled to try and help other mothers with downloadable tutorials and wanted to build an app to do that.
Yeah.
So I think we're seeing a lot of resilience, and that is accelerating what we always knew was going to happen, which was that businesses would become omni-channel and digitally transformed. I just think we're seeing it at a pace that we've just never experienced before.
That's for sure. But the market has been pushing for 10 years. It's now happened in 10 weeks, or even less than that.
Yes.
Yeah, exactly. So Roland, question to you. Where do you, from here, put your strategic priority? Where do you put your bets?
Further building on our ecosystem. So we are building a network of partners throughout Europe and in the US, North America. That's going to be important for us. Besides the things that we were doing, is one of the things that we picked up in over the past weeks. Like I said, we've been testing it for 6 weeks, and it looks to work.
So why do you believe that the ecosystem, growing the ecosystem, is important to the next phase?
Well, it is because for credibility, having more advocates, not just us preaching, but there's more people being positive about what we have to offer, and also so the market will get different perspectives on our products, and also looking at different angles, driving solutions. So I think that's good for the product, because it will, the more influences, the more diversity we get in our messaging. I mean, still loyal to what we have to offer, of course, but I mean, let's see how creative it can get. And creativity from more minds is, I believe in that. So if we build that momentum with more creative minds, I'm all for it.
I'm all for that as well. So last question, and I see that we're also almost at the top of the hour, so see how quickly we can get 1 or 2 more in. Mark, back to you. What do you believe do we need to do different to be remarkable in this new situation, so that customers start talking about us?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think what we need to do is we need to build processes in our companies for generating remarkability. I mean, I think that a lot of these processes that are a lot of things that we try to come up with very creative solutions. It's sometimes people just depend on someone who's creative in the office. I think it's better to have an actual process around coming up with ideas that are unique. I know that in Fluitive we have a concept called the X Factor, and that is that anything that we do to go to market has to have something remarkable about it. It has to have something that's going to get people to talk, something different. So that's a process. So people know not to come to me with any proposals to do anything unless it's got something that is going to have something intriguing in it. So I think we need to have that process, and then include your customers in that. Right? Ask your customers for ideas and really loop them into the process. A number of our customers at Influitive, actually, they are customers in for hackathons and for messaging events, and that sort of thing. Because a lot of times, some of the most remarkable ideas are going to come outside of your four walls, and you need to let your customers in and get them to come up with some of the most intriguing ideas.
Exactly. I completely agree with that. Applause for that as well. So, yeah, I mean, I think we are at the top of the hour, and I want to respect everybody's time. So, key takeaways from me, a couple of them. I think you just highlighted this, that kind of growing and being relevant post-COVID is all about hitting the right nerve, surprising the right way, in a positive way, which is about building remarkability inside your organization. Make it a process. I mean, it's exactly also why I wrote my book, The Remarkable Effect. I think, well, the future at the end is, and I preach for software companies, but it's much broader than that, is that organizations that have products that are worth making remarkable about, they will thrive in the future, because that's what the world at the end is looking for. It would make the world a far better place. Another thing that I've highlighted and noted from this, from everything that you answered here, is to be much more specific about who you're for and who you're not for. I mean, Mark, you talked about the right customer segment, the underserved customer segment, and it doesn't have to be a different segment or an audience that you're not touching upon yet, but make it much more specific, and then you'll see that you will start to resonate in a far better way, kind of addressing their underserved niches. A couple of things from that I also wrote down. Advocacy, having advocates as customers, is definitely a long-term game. If you're in there for the short term, it will not work. Customers will see through that. Product is, of course, extremely important. It starts with that. And I think there's much more to say, but thank you all for your very inspiring insights and experiences and anecdotes from what you've been working on. Top of the hour right now, I want to kind of make a quick plug for the webinar, the panel from next week. This is a panel whereby we are going to focus on, it's all about viability, like sustaining your business and actually making sure that you will come out stronger right now. Again, 4 remarkable leaders, one from Norway, Patrick Berglund. He's from a company called Xeneta. We have Cindy Beck again, Sales Choice. We have Dagmar Schuler, who is in the emotional intelligence space, creating transformation in that area. And we have another person that is in the emotional intelligence area, which is called Paul Zak from Immersion. So join that session again. It's at the same time. You can find the link online on the websites that where you found this one as well. And Malay will likely send. Sorry. No, okay. I thought.
Thanks. Thanks, John. That was fantastic, and thanks to all our audience members as well as panelists for sticking around and absorbing the conversation and all the rich insights. I would also like to propose anyone who is interested in looking back at this discussion, we will have a recording uploaded on our website at the AI Predictive World Forum, and you can visit it at saleschoice.com/resources. And over there, you'll not only find the webinars, but also a lot of podcasts, white papers, blogs, including recordings from the webinar last week that had focused more on delivering value to thrive in the post-COVID era. It's a great resource if you want to learn more about AI, more about sales, more about the industry in general and the direction which it's going. A lot of great content for you to learn from. And before we all say goodbye, I would like to quickly thank not only Don and our panelists, Mark, Sachin, and Roland, and Cindy. I would also like to thank our sponsors, CATA, the Canadian Advanced Technology Alliance, Other Than Value Inspiration, IT World Canada, and the Bedford Consulting Group /Transearch. So thank you all for all your support, and thanks to everyone in the audience for sticking by. We hope to see you next week. You will shortly be receiving an email with a link to register for that webinar, so keep on the lookout for that one. Have a great day, everyone, and stay safe. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.